I think it's just picking your team. Like, your team is so important at every level.
We're all about turning a crappy situation into something positive.
$250,000 of credit
I
card debt.
still remember the day when no one turned up.
Throw it in the garbage and start from scratch.
I could give myself a chance, so I started something.
I mean, I think that counts as from poop to gold.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to From Poop to Gold. I'm your host, Daniel Harmon, Chief Creative Officer at Harmon Brothers. My guest today is Jenn Page. Welcome, Jenn.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming on. And Jenn is a director and producer. You have your own production company, just to make sure I get it right. Heart on Fire Productions out of North Hollywood.
Yes.
And Jenn is really into directing and producing films that have everything to do with music. Right?
Anything music videos, films, whatever. Like,
yeah, all that.
You want
to
add music to your podcast? I'm on board.
Awesome.
I'll make a dance number.
Do you sing?
I don't. You know, the thing is, I don't have any musical ability at all, so it's probably why I
don't believe
musicals.
that.
No, I can't sing.
You don't play any
instruments?
instruments?
I can't even really hear. Like, I can tell something's bad, but I can't really hear. Like, if you're a decent singer, I'm like, yeah, it sounds fine, right? So I feel like I do a lot of times. I think I do musical stuff because it's my way of being a rock star.
Oh, okay.
Like, I remember the one time that I was on stage with Billy Ray and I was filming, and the crowd is out there. I'm like, this is the closest I'll ever be to being a rock star.
That's awesome. Just for some context, Billy Ray Cyrus is who she means. But anyway,
course.
she's worked with Billy Ray Cyrus. You have an award-winning film, The Breakout, a rock opera, as well as you have an internet TV series called My Two Black Girlfriends as well, which is also a musical. Right?
Yes.
And IndieWire called you one of 50 women who will change the world. So that's pretty cool.
In media and entertainment, it was actually a very cool organization called
broader. Not just media and entertainment, all the world.
Okay, so the funny thing
is,
I do feel like we use our art. Like, for me,
Mm-hmm.
I do want to change. Like, I make sure I want to be diverse and I want to include everybody and I want to make things that are happy. So in some ways, I do think that, like, that's my way of changing the world, because I'm not going to go, to Washington and lobby and all that.
Right.
So in
you
some
get
way, I
corrupted
use
anyway.
my.
So
If I'm not already.
Anyway, cool. And obviously, you've worked with some big stars like Billy Ray Cyrus, Black Magic, Weezer, Panic at the Disco, and you've got a film you're finishing up now called Playing with Beethoven, which is also a lot of music.
It was a labor of love.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally it's my 6th feature film, but it's the first film that I really did for me because I was always hired. So we made it on not enough money.
Yeah.
Used every favor in Hollywood to get it done.
Yeah.
And then I had to edit myself between gigs, so it took 2 years to edit.
So you're an editor
So the
too.
fact that it just got sent off to color and sound and music, and it's out of my hands, is
Miracle.
like, oh man, I could have cried the day that I handed it off.
Yeah, it's a ton of work.
So much work.
Okay, well, give us a little bit of your background. Like, how did you end up becoming a director and a producer for movies that have to do with music?
Well, it's funny is I went to college in the middle of corn. It's Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot to do there. It's very close to St. Louis, but even St. Louis is like, there's not a lot to do there when you grow up in the Midwest. And as you know, it's like going to the mall is what people do. The teenagers do on the weekend.
That's right.
So I remember going in, I was going to be a writer. I was like, I'm going to be a creative writer or a journalist. I don't know, but I'm going to write. And I took one English class and like real English class. And there was so many red lines on one of my first papers that I was just like, nah, I'm not doing this. So I dropped the class and I needed something quick. So I went into an acting class and I kind of found my family of like sort of the weirdos and outcasts and like just this weird freedom. And so I kept studying acting in theater and I was terrible. I mean, like, horrible, but I loved doing it. So I kept doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I never really could book anything. I remember I did book my first professional play before I graduated. It was in St. Louis. It was a big deal. But I realized, looking back, I booked it because I was very natural. I was a film actor. I was never a stage actor. I just didn't understand it. To this day, I still don't get it. If you're a good stage actor, you're like, to me, I'm just like, wow. But then when I went to New York for 2 years and I booked everything I auditioned for, and then I went to LA and I couldn't figure out how to get an agent. I couldn't figure out how to get a student film. Like, I just couldn't crack the code. So I started producing stuff for myself.
Okay.
That was like 2003 when I did that. And it was much easier then because it wasn't like now where everybody's doing the free project.
Yeah.
So then you could go, we're putting together these 5 short films over 5 weekends, and everybody came out with all this crew and all this gear.
Yeah.
Because people wanted to be a part of something.
Yeah, they just wanted to create.
Yeah. But then from there, I started to just want to pick up a camera myself. And it got to the point where I just didn't care about acting anymore.
Yeah.
Like I remember like friends, like the last time I ever agreed to act in something, I remember not even wanting to do it, and I did it. And I was just there like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
I want to be making the moments. And I just haven't looked back since. I mean, even my first thing that we talk about music, the first thing I did for myself was I picked up a camera and I made a little music video to Daughtry's Going Home song.
Okay, yeah.
With like my then boyfriend and my daughter who was like 2 and didn't even want to be on camera, but you force them anyway because you're like, mommy needs to practice.
That's right.
And I don't know, I just fell in love with creating music on camera, what you could do with music, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you say you don't really have like a musical bone, but I don't believe that. You've got to have at least some sense of rhythm, right? For sure.
I mean, I've always loved music. I
Huh?
grew up as a 90s R&B girl. I'm very much an alt rock girl.
Okay,
now.
yeah.
Like I love like Wolf Mother and stuff. But I mean, so I get music. I love music. Music moves me.
Yeah.
I think that's really what it is. It's the feeling.
Yes.
Like I'm really good at placing music. Even in my web series I used to do, like there's songs I'll hear in TV shows now that I placed in my web series,
Yeah.
5-7 years ago because I just kind of get it.
Yes.
I couldn't create it. I couldn't sing it. I couldn't.
Okay. But that is a skill set in and of itself to be able to recognize what resonates emotionally.
I think so.
Be able to plug it
yeah.
into the right places so that it really heightens the emotion of the moment and everything.
Well, as filmmakers, we don't tend to give ourselves credit for much stuff. We try to be more humble, or we don't really recognize that we have a skill. But that's one place where I'm like, no, I'm really good at picking out music.
Okay, there you go. No, for sure. And admittedly, in times with our ads, but we don't use music a lot. Most of the stuff is, it's very kind of pitch to camera kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm musical, but I like to get other people that maybe are a little bit more plugged into, what's really fresh and everything with
Well,
that.
it's funny that you say that because I just said this in the Beethoven last screening session we did with the producers, and they were talking about, well, that scene will be better with music. I'm like, no, if a scene isn't working without music, it's not working.
You heard it here, everybody.
Yeah, the music should just push it home.
Yes, thank you. And this is a director,
Yes, who loves music.
loves music, and who is doing all her stories based around music and everything. And so, I think that's awesome because we say that all the time. We say make it work, make the edit work first, and if it flows without the music, then you can add it after the fact.
I had
an
an assistant editor on Beethoven who spent all this time, wasted so much time putting music in for like temp music, and I literally didn't listen to any of it. I went and deleted it before I started to do my run on the edit.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't need it. I don't need to hear it.
Yeah.
And also, you don't want to get attached to something you're never going to have. Anyway.
That's right. It's like, oh, there's no rights for that.
I
What
did that
happened
once.
there?
I remember my very first feature. We put Dog Days Florence Machine song in there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it lived. It was the only song that kind of never got replaced. It like lived to the very end when we're like, well, we have to take it out now. It's about to get distribution. Yeah. And we had to have a song created to sort of try. You're never going to be Florence and the Machine.
Yeah, that's right.
So the composer who did it did a really lovely job. I mean, it's as close as we're going to get, and she really did a great job, but it's never going to feel like the Florence made that moment feel like.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't get temp scores are the worst.
Okay, so let me ask. The name of the podcast is From Poop to Gold.
Okay.
And we always try to get to the root of some of these awesome, not so awesome in the moment, right? But awesome experiences where you've started out with a really crappy situation and either that you were dealt, you got yourself into, but then you came out of it on the other side with something really great. You turned it into gold, whatever. Do one of those or 12 of those come to mind for you?
I talk about this a lot when I give talks. It's like I would tell you a million bad horror stories about films, but I look back and I go, I always learned something. I always took something away. I got I met amazing cast. I met a DP I love. So there's always something that I feel like you take away from, even if in the middle of the situation, you might want to kill somebody.
Yeah.
You don't want to be looking for a locker to hide the producer in for a while.
Yeah.
but like I had so many things. I mean, we had this short film Cazadora. Day one, we show up with our, our team of 50 cast and crew, and we're locked out of the location.
Oh gosh.
No one had the producer doesn't have a cell phone number for the location owner. He's driving around town trying to find this guy.
There's no locations manager, so to speak.
Yeah, because it's
yeah, it's all a
little
short film.
indie films,
Yeah,
and
it's all on the producer.
Yeah, and so we couldn't get in. And I was like, great, we're not going to owe these people all money because they've already come out.
Kill fees and all that stuff.
Yeah, and so it was one of those, film's not going to get made. And the worst part, it was for this very sweet, talented actress, and Amber Romeo, and she made this for herself because she's a stunt. She's been doing stunts since she's like 15. She's like 18 now, and her mom and dad were kind of giving her the money, and it wasn't a lot of money. We were already trying to basically make gold from poop, as it were.
Yeah, very much.
And so now they have this, and then we finally get in another day, and we're all back, and then the truck breaks down with the gear, and we're like on set for 2 hours waiting for gear to show up. And I mean, like, it was like the cursed set, and the whole building was this sort of factory, so it smelled really bad, and it was really hot. I'm talking like at least 100 degrees of just you're sweating the whole time, and they're doing stunts. We don't have enough time to do it, but somehow, like, at the end of the day, is it perfect? No. Like, I wouldn't, but at the end of the day, she's won some Best Actor awards. The film's won a couple acknowledgments and festivals, and she has a great film at the end. And that was sort of the important thing. The audience, that's my problem. And as you know, as a filmmaker, the audience doesn't know any of the poo that you deal with.
No.
All they know is what's on screen. So you can't go stand up at an audience and go, listen, we only had $12 and some toothpicks, okay?
That's right.
It doesn't matter what we
That's right,
have.
yeah.
So the fact that she, has a film that's good, I think that that's the gold part of it. And, I made some new, some really great actors, that came out of that. Because actors who will stick through that and have a good attitude and come out on the other side.
They're gems.
You are now in the family.
That's right. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you said it exactly right. That no one ever sees what doesn't end up on screen, right? All that matters is what's in there. They don't care about all the trouble and stuff that went into that, and that's just part of your own little backstory, right? Your own little behind the scenes. So, for you as a director, what are some of the most helpful techniques that you use as a director when you are on set filming with your actors, with talent?
One of my favorite things that I do is work a lot with breath.
Okay.
Because I think actors are always in their head.
Okay.
And the best thing to do to get them out of their head is just to make them breathe.
Okay.
So even things like maybe they have to cry, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always, some actors just can't cry.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate forced emotion. Like, it's my least. I'd rather you hold back tears than cry.
Right.
So I work a lot with just that breathing. Like, just sit here and breathe in your chest, and how does it feel, and get it tight. And so the point where, like, they're not even thinking about anything anymore. They're just kind of concentrating on their breath, and suddenly tears are falling down their face,
Mm-hmm.
Or anger, I always get them to close up their sort of, I'm like, I want you to feel like you're going to throw up if you say these words, and get that fire in your belly.
Mm-hmm.
And the more they work with that breath, because if we think about it as humans, every emotion, our breath is different.
Oh,
so we can almost fake that in our bodies.
Wow.
And it gets out of the head. It's one of my I'll go to that for almost everything with actors.
I'm learning something new. I've got to try that. That is one
great.
I have not actually focused on, but I haven't had to make a lot of people cry in my ads yet, though, either. So,
but it even works with comedy, because sometimes people, like, their energy isn't right, so like just doing things, just do some jumping jacks or something. Or a lot of times with comedy, when they're in their own heads, I'm like, you got to do something stupid right now. You got to just do something that makes you feel like, let's scream together. Let's
just change it up.
Get out of your head.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. So what about in the editing and post-production process? What you already mentioned, one technique is that you want the edit to flow and to make sense and to feel good before you add the music in.
Mm-hmm.
Any other tips in that area that you use?
Well, editing is such a tricky beast, because if you in theory, you have an editor that is an artist,
yes,
and you trust,
yes,
and you get back this magical rough cut, right?
Magical rough cut. You've had
magical.
magical rough cuts? Because we haven't. We've had a lot of rough cuts that we've been like what Martin Scorsese says when he's like, if you don't get physically ill when you see your first rough cut, you've done something wrong.
Well, I wish I had heard that before I saw one rough cut, because I remember I actually had a falling out with the producer because the rough cut, when it came back to me, I was like, it's so bad I don't know how to give notes on this.
Yeah.
But no, I had like with Beethoven, I actually cut most of it, and then I was like, it's never going to get done if I don't hand it off for a little while. So we had an amazing assistant editor who kind of did a rough assembly, and it really was kind of like this breath of like, now I've got it together. Now I can go in and fine tune without all of the pressure and the like, because when you know how it is, if you have all the shots and you're the one who's trying to decide, make all these decisions, sometimes it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think it feels magical if it just comes back and you're like, okay, this flows.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can go and do my thing, but it doesn't feel,
Yeah.
that, and that's just trusting the person you hired.
Yep.
To just kind of
Hiring an editor who is an actual, not just a technician, but an artist, a creative.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I know directors. I have some really good friends who they are the kind of directors who will literally watch every single take again and pick moments out of different. I would lose my mind.
Yeah, I don't have time for that.
Yeah, I would rather an editor I trust them, and then if there's a take that's not working for me, great. I can go, let me see what else I've got. And
Yeah.
a lot of what I do is just tightening it. And I'm not a director who's precious about my footage. Like, there's scenes I love in Beethoven. I'm like, this movie's too long. They got to go.
Yeah.
My best friend is in one of those. And I'm like, sorry, I have to cut you out. And I love the scene. It's just, you got to make those
It's got to work in
decisions.
the whole. It doesn't have to be, it's not about the scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about the story as a whole.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So do you ever have projects where you're both producing and directing? And if yes, then how do you juggle that?
Unfortunately, most are me producing and directing. I think a lot of times because of indie film, a lot of times I get hired as a director, but it's by people who've never maybe done anything.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't produce, it's not going to be done properly. You're not going to have the right crew. People aren't going to be paid right, whatever it is. Even like I know how to finagle and get like, the best makeup or costumes made or whatever I need to do, whereas like a newer producer doesn't really know how to do that without spending a lot of money. And don't get me wrong, I want to pay everybody. I'm ready for my $3 to $10 to $20 million budgets because I'm tired of the finagling. And I really want to just direct, to be honest.
Right.
But it's hard as an indie producer. I don't think you really get away from, or indie director, it's hard to get away from producing. Juggling them is really just a matter of getting as much as you can done in pre-production.
Yes.
And then bringing on somebody you really trust to deal with that on set day.
Yeah.
So they've been with me through the whole of pre-production. So on set, they understand everything that's going on, and I don't have to worry. Now, do things still happen where it's like, Jen, sorry, we have to discuss this?
Right.
Of course. But if you have, people who can handle those fires.
You've got a producer there in that moment to take care of that so you can still stay focused on the vision.
I've been it's really important to me to help people who really want to learn the business.
Yep.
Especially women in the business. So anybody who's like, I want to shadow or I want to learn, I'm like, come on. And then like on Beethoven, Brandon Poehler, he had only really second AD'd a little short for me. He comes from a business background, so he, has a business sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, look, you want to produce this? Like, we'll spend the year trying to figure out how to get it made on no money, and then you'll learn. And then now he could go produce something because he's produced a feature film. Yeah. And I trusted him to be on set handling problems. I never had to really worry about it, even though it was his first feature.
Sure.
I think it's just picking your team. Like, your team is so important at every level.
Yes.
Like a DP that drives the director crazy you're going to have a problem with the film, and I've had a lot of that issue.
Yeah, and for the non-film people here, a DP is obviously a director of photography who's in charge of basically the cameras and, some of the lighting and the look of the way the film is being shot in many ways, right? Obviously you're coordinating very closely with the director of photography.
And a lot of times what happens is you have a cinematographer who they sort of paint the picture for you, and then I'll say like, this is great, but I feel like the wall's a little flat. Can you give me a splash or something? And then a cinematographer who has ego thinks you're hating their work, and then it becomes a fight and a struggle.
Right.
And a cinematographer who's collaborative, which the last few cinematographers I've worked with have been dreams. They're like, yes, let's discuss, what can we do? What are we thinking? And then we figure out a plan. I mean,
Collaboration is
people,
huge.
oh, it just makes the dream.
It's night and day difference.
It is.
And because the film is the great collaborative art form, right?
It is. You cannot make a film by yourself. Even if you're making a film by yourself, you can't, because you can't hold the camera. I mean, I think when I was acting, when I was still experimenting, I remember putting a camera on a tripod and like doing lights and doing all this dramatic stuff to learn. But other than that, like you can't make a film by yourself. There's at least somebody else with you. There's an actor, there's a sound person, there's something.
Yes, absolutely. So it's so crucial to find the right people. I kind of like, we have a similar approach at Harmon Brothers when we find someone that's like really good character-wise. It's like, okay, now let's find your passions and where you fit in.
Yeah.
And in the similar type of way where you had your friend with a business background didn't necessarily have all the film language or know all the ins and outs and stuff, but you're like, at the end of the day, I know I can trust you and you'll figure the rest of that stuff out. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good hiring mentality.
It is. And I think that I always say I will take a less experience with a good attitude over a bad attitude and super skills.
100% of the time, yes.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so for people that want to learn about Jenn and what you're doing, where should they look you up?
I am so easy to find because all of my socials are a Jenn Page Film. Okay. Jenn with 2 N's. Okay. Page. And then Google Jenn Page, and I'm pretty much the first few pages. So
yeah,
I'm lucky
it's convenient
that way, I guess.
Yeah.
Although I do check once in a while, make sure there's something
nice.
weird up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's important because like Jenn with 1 N, you'll find like even with Twitter, I remember I had to take a different handle. I couldn't be Jenn Page because she was like I don't know, she was like a scrapbooker who did one tweet, and now she owns the Twitter handle. So.
Yeah, that happens. No, that happens for sure. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a lot of fun to do this. And we have a gift for you, actually.
What?
Yeah.
I like presents.
There we go. So this is our book.
Oh my God, I was hoping I was going to get the unicorn spray.
So yes, you are getting the unicorn spray.
I'm winning today. This is great.
There you go. Anyway, and for those of you that want to check out our book, it's on harmonbrothersbook.com, and you can look it up there. Remember to subscribe, follow, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for coming on, Jenn.
Thank you.